Hello and welcome to Funded Futures. My name is Emily, I'm your host, and today I'm joined by Adam Schwab, who is the co-founder and CEO of Luxury Escapes, which is a platform for booking not just luxury holidays, but amazing holiday deals. And you're also the host of the Contrarians podcast. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
I feel like I've been stalking you for a really long time, trying to get you on here, and we've finally made it.
It was mostly my fault, so.
Oh, no, it's fine. I mean, I was listening to your podcast the other day and you were saying how Mel, your assistant.
Well, it's actually Adir's assistant. I don't have an assistant, so
What?
I can't actually blame anybody else for my
For your
frequent
organisation.
cancellations.
No, you've been good. You haven't actually ever cancelled on me. I've just been trying to pin you down. Oh, I think you've been all right. Maybe that was someone else.
Yeah, guilty conscience.
No, no. Don't be guilty. I've gotten you here finally because I just wanted to have a chat. First time I saw you speak was at an event after I've been to networking basketball, which was as traumatic as it sounds.
Yeah.
I was only brought in because there was like 3 females there. So I had to go and it was horrible. You know how men are very competitive?
I did that basketball thing once, and it was, I remember speaking to a guy beforehand saying, like, whenever you play sport post, like officially playing sport, someone always gets injured. Like when I was a lawyer, there was like a law firm footy game, someone would always break a leg or do something. I was speaking to a guy before saying, oh, someone's going to get injured. And then like half an hour later, that guy was sitting with it, like his ankle in ice. So
oh my gosh.
It's inevitable. You just don't want to get the person who gets injured.
Yeah, 100%. I got a ball to the side of the face and I was like, not the face, anything but the face. That's all I've got. And then got a scratch on the arm and I'm standing on the outskirts. I just find the way men are competitive to be like quite icky. It's a bit embarrassing, isn't it?
Especially when it's not a real game.
That's
probably the worst part of it.
You're networking, which is weird. I find that really
funny. That
funny.
is a great event. Like for networking, what Brando and Simon do for that is actually super impressive. So I think I'm always like taking out the overly competitive nature part of it. What they do is actually really good. I think to bring businesses together, and it's a really good range of businesses. Not like you sometimes go like the high tech stuff. There's some tech stuff there, but there's also like non-tech businesses there, which is quite good. So it's good to bring sort of founders, CEOs, C-suite together. I think they do a really good job of it.
100%. I mean, I don't think we'd be here if it wasn't for that today, because I saw you speak and you were talking about your story and where Luxury Escapes had come from and where you're at today, and it's pretty incredible. Like you've overcome a lot, and particularly going through COVID and everything, and I know that's been like a big part of your story and how you guys have learned to pivot. But how have you come from, having a deals website to begin with to where Luxury Escapes is today?
It was actually really helpful not having any travel background. So travel's an interesting sector in that there's no real sort of there's no university course for travel. You don't go to uni to be a travel agent. You kind of most people just fall into it. And as a result of that, there's kind of a really old school way that a lot of travel agents had operated. So there'd sort of be a wholesaler, there'd be the hotels or whatever the tour companies, a wholesaler and a travel agent. And it was sort of done like that for 30, 40 years, however many years. And then sort of in the 2000s, things called OTAs started, so online travel agents, so Booking.com being by far the biggest and Expedia being the second biggest. Mm-hmm. And these OTAs started, they kind of flipped a bit of the travel industry on its head, and they went directly to hotels and got rid of this middle sort of wholesaler business. And we sort of came in not knowing any of this background, and we had this effectively deals business. So we were originally a Groupon clone, one of 82 in Australia, and it was a really hard business. We had a really small average basket size. You had questionable delivery of the service or product, usually service. So because we didn't control the end-to-end experience, if we sold a voucher to a restaurant and the restaurant did a terrible job, we'd get justifiably blamed by the customer. They would just never come back to us, or they'd demand a refund and never come back. It would be a bad result, whatever happened.
Yeah.
So if you look at the unit economics of that business, they were challenged. And we still sell experiences now and get your guide and buy or do a good job. So we pivoted that experiences business into a kind of auxiliary peripheral travel experiences business. But at the same time, we realised that travel was the best part of the business, and that much higher basket size, much better customer satisfaction, because the hotels really care about hospitality. So we kind of just fell into doing travel because we could make money from it. There was no pre-understanding. We didn't have a clue. We'd never stayed at a 5-star hotel ever, but I'd certainly hadn't. I doubt Jez would have. If anything, would be like 3-star hotels. And so we didn't really know what we were doing. That was helpful in that we didn't have preconceived notions of how the industry should operate, which is how pretty much everybody else operated. And that allowed us to just do things differently to the rest of the travel sector. And we started doing travel in probably 2011. 2013, we created the Luxury Escapes brand name. And that was really created not for customers. It's a bit of a two-edged sword with customers. Some customers think, oh, this is too high end for me. I can't buy luxury. But luxuries could be $100 a night. Room can be $10,000. Luxury's got an eye of the beholder, right? So what's luxury to you might be different to what's luxury for me. And everybody has a different view. So that is sometimes a disadvantage for us. But where it is really helpful is to get great resorts to effectively advertise with us, whereas they wouldn't with the deals.com.au. They might much more likely with the Luxury Escape. So it was really a hotel-facing change. We knew if we got the great hotel product on the site, customers would come. And it was the challenge but especially for the first 5 years, was getting great hotel product on the site.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that actually the first time I heard of Luxury Escapes was through my parents. Because,
get that a lot.
Yeah. They just love a deal. And in fact, my mum booked an all-inclusive holiday in Phuket when my sister turned 30, and it was the most amazing holiday until we all got violent food poisoning on the last day. Naturally.
That's the worst.
Oh, it's a real treat. Well, I'll never forget the holiday.
Yeah, but because of the food poisoning, potentially.
Everything else was incredible. And I just remember her remarking how easy it was to navigate. My mum's terrible with tech, and I think the user interface is what really sets it apart from other booking sites. How did you research and develop that user interface to make it simple for your target audience?
If you'd asked us what UI UX was in 2011, 12, we wouldn't, we literally wouldn't be able to tell you. So we've got an amazing designer, Amanda, now, who has been with us probably for coming towards 10 years, maybe 8 years. And she's been a real driver for our UI UX. And we've got a team around her as well, so it's grown. But how I've always sort of wanted it is how me as a customer would want it. And we're a bit pedantic on how things look. It's hard. You A/B test heaps of stuff and you change the colour of buttons and it never actually changes conversion. It's more a totality thing. And we've always been, if you look at our very first few websites, we were really just copied off, whether copied Hezi at Scoop-On or whoever. We generally just copied people, which is kind of how it was done back then. And then we've probably, since Luxury Escapes, created more of our own voice and more of our own UI. And it's really been trial and error. I think there's things that are probably good about this, other things that probably could be improved. I think there always can be. We've got a team just focused on conversion now, on optimization. So they're constantly tweaking and changing things. We're not at the point like a Booking.com who are the masters of A/B testing. They're basically testing thousands of things every day. That business has really nailed it. Obviously, Meta has been a great exponent of that. We have never built our own A/B testing tool, it's been on the roadmap for a while. We'll get to it at some point. Till you get that, it's really hard to test on scale, on real great scale.
Yeah.
So we just tend to be a bit gut feel what customers will like. And a lot of the stuff's two-way door. So if we get it wrong, we'll just sort of revert it. But there's definitely no alchemy. I'm not sure if you ever sort of followed Hamilton Helmer's 7 Powers.
Yeah.
And Adira and I think we created an 8th power. I don't know. When we spoke to Ben Gilbert from Acquired on the show, he was skeptical because he thought maybe it's process power. But I think there is an 8th power, which is kind of product, or I'm sure it's really hard to define, which is what makes it hard. But I don't think it's process power. Can you think of process power? The classic process power is Toyota or NVIDIA, where you create this great, almost factory type process to produce a good for cheaper than other people. But the power that I think we've got a little bit of, but the classic exponents, Nintendo and HBO, are the two classic exponents of this power. Call it artistic wizardry, or Hermes has a bit of it with its whimsy, which is creating generational ability to create an artistic product better than others. So think of HBO is able to earn an Emmy for like $10 million, where it costs Apple like $100 million. Like there's some crazy stat where how effective HBO is at churning out incredible shows, how effective Nintendo is at churning out incredible games, not for like 1 or 2 years. This is for like 30 and 40 years HBO and Nintendo have been around for, and producing high quality stuff. And there's an element of sort of caught artisanry in a business that's almost an 8th power that isn't brand, isn't scale, isn't counter positioning, isn't network. It's kind of part of process power, but it's a bit different to process power. I think we've probably got a little bit of that. We're not HBO or Nintendo, but I think we've got a bit of that in our business, that we can kind of make things look appealing and feel appealing. We've got that bit with our deals and our content resource. So we're not to that extent, but we think we can produce really great content, both from a UX, UI perspective and from a deal perspective, better than anyone else on earth.
Yeah, right. And obviously you're most likely, and correct me if I'm wrong, utilizing AI generated, suggestions and blockchain bookings, that kind of thing. Has that really led into kind of an easier, more streamlined and more effective way for people to book holidays?
No one's really got that right yet, and I'll put us in that bucket. We're using AI a little bit. Everybody talks about they use AI. There's not many businesses that seem to have actually achieved it. Klarna and in Australia, Temple and Webster talk about using it to reduce customer service costs significantly.
Right.
We can deflect about 20% of our contacts through a chatbot now. We're about to launch voice on top of that. This is just chat. So 20% get deflected and about 60% of that get resolved. So that's 12% of total comms, which is not bad. It's not like 100%, so clearly not knowing that. But 12%, taking off 12, we got 100 people in our customer support team. That's 10 people that we can have answering customers more quickly or doing higher level stuff or doing other stuff completely. So we haven't used it to reduce the size. Our team hasn't reduced, but it's become more efficient.
Right.
And we've been able to, usually because we're growing constantly, we're also hiring a lot more people. We've hired more people, but at a slower rate. So it's definitely got our cost per transaction down by about 20% so far.
That's massive.
So I think there is a lot more upside there, but that's sort of one thing. The other thing that we're probably 6 months away from, but I've been talking about this for like 4 years, and that's building the connected trip. So I went on a podcast 5 years ago, so we had to launch a connected trip, and we launched it, and it just wasn't, the tech wasn't quite there yet. So
Can you explain what a connected trip is?
So a lot of travel companies have been trying to get this right. Booking.com's talked about this for 20 years. It's basically, think of an itinerary. So when you sort of plan your trip, so there's sort of two steps. There's the kind of build plan phase where you're trying to work out what you want to do when you travel.
Yeah.
So if you go to Phuket, like you guys went, or somewhere in Thailand, and you're sort of there back, it's pretty easy. It's kind of one major hotel stay, but then on top of that, there's a bunch of stuff as well. So, and then if you go to Europe or US, there's usually like 10 different things. So there's different levels of complexity. Let's use your Phuket stay as an example, because you think a pretty simple thing, but there's actually a bit of complexity there. So when we talk about connected trip, it's not just selling the Phuket stay, it's selling, you need to get from your house to the airport. So that's a transfer. When you get to the airport, you might want to go to a lounge. So that's something you could do. When you get to Phuket, you got to get a transfer from the airport to the hotel. And then there's stuff to do every day. You could be going out. If not everybody has all-inclusive. All-inclusive probably less need for this. But if you're not all-inclusive, you want to go to restaurants, you might want to go to bars, you might want to do stuff like water parks during the day, you might go on a cooking tour, lots of stuff. That's what makes the trip, not just the bedded by the pool.
You're talking about me. So there's this theory that this Australian comedian came up with, and she said every group has someone. In her theory, that person is Nicole. I am Nicole. So I am the girl in the trip, and I am the one, I'm booking everyone's flights. Everyone's transferring me for those flights. I'm booking the transfers. I am booking that restaurant. I'm saying it's a special occasion. It's Lisa's birthday. Yeah. Make sure there's a cake. I'm that girl.
It's a thankless task.
It's a thankless task, and I hate it. But also, will I let anyone else do it? No.
Right. Yeah, I'm the same. I'm exactly the same.
And I've created it. I'm same in marketing. So I've created a deck. There are visuals. There are links. There are phone numbers. There is everything in there. And I send it to everybody ahead of time. And everyone just shows up. And there is always that one person that complains. And they're like, oh, there's really not a lot of gluten-free options. Piss off. Go home. I can't deal with you. Like, I feel like you are that girl in the group as well. Like, you and I are that
100%,
girl.
I'm 100% the Emily/Nicole. But what we're trying to do is make your job easier. So when next time you book your trip for 8 friends, we're doing that. We're not doing it fully for you, because I think part of the beauty of, you probably kind of like doing it as well. Like, we talk about hating it, but there's a bit of, like, I'm the same, that I kind of, A, I don't trust anybody else to do it, but B, I kind of like doing it secretly. Yeah. I say I don't trust anybody. That's like the secondary reason. Part of the reason I like doing it. But it's also a hassle, like typing all that stuff in. If there's an easy, better way to do it, rather having to like scroll through Google restaurant reviews, we think there could be a much better way. So we've had this trip planner product, and a trip planner's live. We've done like 20,000 hens nights, 100,000 weddings. Like, there's heaps of stuff. People using this, but it hasn't got to the point where it's taking like all that work you're doing really away. So what we want to be able to do is suggest stuff to you. So you go to Phuket, there's all that stuff you want to buy. If you go to Europe, it's a much more complex trip. But let's say it's a simple trip to Phuket. How do we sell you this? And how do we suggest restaurants that are right for your gluten-free friend, because you've told us that? So We want to get a bit of we don't take half an hour you giving us info because that's just like self-defeating. We want to spend maybe 30 to 60 seconds getting info from you. How far do you want to walk? How mobile are you? Do you like high-end restaurants? Do you like cheaper restaurants? All this kind of stuff. And then we'll use some pretty simple algorithms to suggest, and this is like some pretty simple LLMs. Here's the top restaurant we think near you based on what you've told us. You might say, actually, no, this isn't for me. It's too expensive. It's too far, whatever. Suggest me another 3, and then another 3 pop up. You like one, you click it, then you ideally within our trip planner tool, you then choose your time and it's all booked and it's stored in there for you. And then you can share it with friends and share it with family back home. So how do we create what nobody's been able to create, which is effectively a live, living, breathing itinerary that's actually changing while you're on holiday? So it's great when you used to go to a travel agent, they give you this PDF, then you're like scrolling on the side, which is pretty messy. But we want it to be consistent. And our current one now is dynamic, so it can change it. But what we haven't got now is the ability to suggest stuff to you. It's just stuff to you that actually matches your preferences. What we do, so we got 3 advantages that hopefully allow us to do this product that nobody else has been able to get right. Like everybody's tried this. So this is not a novel. Like trip planning is a pretty obvious thing because everybody has the same issues that we have. But what we think we can do differently is, one, we've got a lot of first-party data because people, if you look at what Luxuryscapes is, it's an impulse-driven channel. 95% of our customers weren't going to where they bought till we told them about it. So people come to browse, which is very different to like a booking.com where you kind of go to buy something. So we get a lot of people who are sort of browsing, looking around, trying to get inspiration. So we've got a lot of data on people that even a booking.com wouldn't have because you kind of go there for a purpose. Whereas with us, you come, I want to buy a great, amazing beach holiday. We'll see what Luxuryscapes have. I'll browse around and you're giving us data constantly and we're using that data to make your experience better. Not to sell you stuff like Meta might, but to actually make your Luxuryscapes experience better. That's point 1. Point 2 is that sort of 8th power. We do have a really big UI UX focus that I think other businesses don't have. And combine that with the 3rd thing we have, which is we sell everything. So Booking.com sells hotels, Klook sells experiences, Webjet sells flights, Airbnb sells villas. Nobody sells at all. Maybe offline agents sell it all, but no online. And we're online, offline. We have a retail store in Chatty. We've got 100 plus people in a call, 100 plus super experienced agents in a call center, but a lot of people book online. We have the ability to sell you everything. So we can sell you the lounge pass. We can sell you the restaurant. We can sell you the cooking class. We can obviously sell you the hotel. We can sell you the tour if you want to go on the tour with your parents afterwards. We sell you a cruise. So we can sell you lots of stuff. So the ability to understand UI, UX, having all that first party data and having the product gives us those sort of triangulation of what we think we need to build some really good connected trips, or give you the tools to build a connected trip. Yeah. And you can go click, go on to all of it. And you can say, actually, no, this is just a handy tool to inspire me. You're still going to do all your research and do your usual sort of close planning, but it's really up to the customer to choose how they want to interact with the product. And it's not something we want to charge, or it's something we want to give as a sort of free bonus when you use Luxuryscapes. At the same time, we're also launching a wider loyalty program. So we've got a subscription program now that has been really popular, and the behaviour I've seen has been, if you're a student of behavioural economics, which you possibly are being a marketer, every behavioural economics point you think is like there has been shown. So the sunk cost fallacy, all the stuff that we thought might happen has happened, but we are launching a wider loyalty where you can really gamify the site. So we can give you points for doing lots of stuff. You can burn points, and you get status credits and start getting free upgrades and free transfers and all this kind of stuff that, like, airlines, Qantas does it remarkably well. Virgin does it really well. Singapore Airlines does it really well. So airlines have sort of gotten it. Marriott does it okay with Bonvoy, but not amazing. And obviously they're limited by only being hotels and only being Marriotts. Yeah. Because we can sell across different verticals. I think we can launch a loyalty program that is actually a really good loyalty program, combine it with a great tool like a trip planner, combine it with our great product, and create this amazing travel experience that people really love to interact with. That's where we want to be in really a year's time.
Yeah, right. So it's interesting, obviously, like your background, you got inspired by Groupon, created a copy along with all of those others who created copies. Why do you think nobody has been able to copy the luxury experience business as a whole?
It's a great question. There's a business called Voyage Privé in France. So they definitely didn't go before us. So we didn't copy them, they didn't copy us. We just happened to do it at the same time. And there's Secret Escapes.
I know the one,
yeah. Yeah, Secret Escapes in the UK as well. But Voyage Privé, they're bigger than us. They're probably double our, they've got a head start on us. They're probably double our size. France is a very forward-thinking e-commerce nation as well. They've done a really good job executing. We think our site is marginally better, but they were a really great business and they made incredible profit. And we look up to them in many ways, but we think we do some stuff better than them. They probably do think they do stuff better than us, but they do a really good job. But there is a bit of if you look at the barriers to entry in our business, so the issue Groupon had, there was like 0 barriers to entry. Anyway, like 82 people copied them in Australia, and we all just sort of did the same thing, and margins got ground down to like 10% from 50, and the business was hard, and which is why none of them existed. Well, Groupon maybe still exists. We bought everyone else and sort of spun out that experience and stuff, and now it's more travel experiences. But it was just a really hard, no competitive advantages essentially.
Yeah, right.
So I guess the question is, what competitive advantages do we have that have stopped people copying us? Because if you don't have any competitive advantage, people just rip you off. And the classic case was that Dreamcatcher guy, the lemon thing that we talked about on the pod, that Anchor and Kmart ripped him off because he had no real competitive advantage there, even though they had a great product. So what competitive advantage do we have if you're looking at Hamilton Helmer's forces? We'd be able to build some brand, and brand is super powerful in online travel. Like it's always powerful, but if you think of the trust hurdles that you have when you're booking online, if I'm buying a bottle of water online and it doesn't come, doesn't really matter. Like, big deal. Yeah, your water hasn't come, you buy another one. If you're buying travel online, so there's a couple of issues. One, it's usually a pretty big basket size. So if you're spending like $10,000 on travel, or if you're spending $1,000 on travel, that's a lot of money to be at risk. You don't want the counterparty, in this case the agent, to be non-existent or stuff it up or lie to you or whatever. So there's that risk. And then not only are you spending a lot of money, actually going overseas as well. So, or often going overseas or going interstate. So you've taken your whole family, there's 5 of you, you've traipsed to Phuket, you rock up at the hotel, they don't have your booking, or the hotel doesn't exist, or haven't heard of luxury escape, or whatever. That'd be a terrible experience. So there's a really high trust hurdle to jump over as a travel business, those high AOV and the nature of what you're selling.
Yeah, right.
So the brand impact for consumers is actually quite powerful. So if you opened up Luxury Escapes 2 tomorrow, would anybody go there? Unless they confused us with Luxury Escapes 1, like probably not, because they just wouldn't trust it. They think, oh, this sounds dodgy. So brand is pretty big. We've also got some cornered resource in that the deals we do with our Phuket, our Bali, our Maldives hotels, our Queensland hotels, they're very hard to replicate. In fact, nobody else has been able to do it. So we've got this product that nobody else has. And the question is, well, how do you guys get that? Nobody else gets that. There's a few things. We had a lot of luck. So we had a great guy called Mark, who was one of our first sort of sales guy, who just created a lot of this stuff, and he was sort of incredible at doing this. But we were able to get to scale, so we can now sell a significant amount of room nights really quickly for our hotel part. We can sell our biggest selling deal, maybe $15 million for one hotel in like a month, which is 20% of their sales for the year. So this is like $1 billion hotel, and 20% of them is like due to us. So that's pretty powerful to be able to go and say that to someone. And we're giving them a lot of revenue. We're giving them revenue when they others wouldn't have it. So remember, we're talking about incrementality. This is revenue they otherwise wouldn't have. So let's say they were trading at 80% occupancy, something like that at 95%. And that's like super profitable. So it's really good for a hotel from a sort of financial perspective. And we're giving them when they need it, which is even better. So that's sort of point one. Point two is we sort of created this concept of not just selling the bed in the room. So when you talked about all-inclusive, we might be all-inclusive, we might be full board, might be half, or might be just transfer, whatever. But we're never going to sell just a bed in the room. The beauty of that is hotels, when they're selling F&B, for example, or massages in Asia, it's a really high margin product. So you're not selling a 30% margin room, you're selling an 80% margin dinner. Because you've got the restaurant, you've got the staff, you've probably bought the food, all this kind of stuff. So you're able to just be more efficient. So that, even though we're giving them a lower kind of daily rate, they're getting a much higher revenue per available room. So they're getting much higher revenue total. So if you look past the daily rate, you actually get a really good result. Third thing we do is we sell a lot of volume really early. So 6 months is our average lead time. So what that means is hotels, so instead of being 10% full, they're suddenly 40% full, and they can start charging more on all their other channels. So they make money through non-luxury escapes channels, because we're only going to be a smaller part of their sales. So all that stuff, and we're a great marketing agent essentially for the hotel. So between our TV show and our magazine, our newspaper ads, and the 1.5 million Facebook and the 800,000 Insta and 300,000 TikTok and all that stuff, we're putting hotels. So if you're a single hotel, JW Marriott in Phuket, amazing property, $1 billion asset, really hard to market one asset. Like Marriott's great at marketing Marriott or marketing W or whatever, or Ritz-Carlton, but it's really hard for these brands to market, and they can't really market
and not every hotel can be on White Lotus.
Only one can be, or in this case, one a bit. Yeah, the 2 Anantaras and obviously Four Seasons, but they don't even brand that. So you sort of have to find that out through the they don't.
Look, I have Google. Like I feel like I'll find it.
Or you can definitely find. If you're smart, you can find it. But they don't actually. There's no 4-season sign. In White Lotus.
Exactly.
But yeah, we can act as we'll do some stuff around Thailand hotels when White Lotus obviously just started. But during the run, we'll do some stuff around Thailand. Because obviously Thailand's one of our great sort of destinations. So yeah, we can be a marketing partner for the hotels, which is really hard for individual hotels. So if you sort of add all those things together, we think some really good value for hotels, and we just pass those and the hotels give us these great deals as a result of that. We just act as a middle person and pass those deals on to customers. So in that sense, it's pretty hard for someone to copy us because you just can't get those deals because you just can't move the volume. So you don't have the scale benefit that we have. And we've got 140 developers and 600 people. So it's not that you couldn't copy it, but a new business will be hard. And then you ask, well, why can't Booking.com copy you? That's the counter positioning argument. So Booking.com with this incredible $200 billion OTA, do they want to create like a $2 billion business on the side that kind of competes with their original? Probably not. Like it's probably just not material enough for them. Maybe they'll prove me wrong and start it one day. But and even then, I don't think I'd do a good as job as us because they work with 1 million properties. We work with like 200. So it's not saying like every business does get disrupted, and we could be disrupted next week or next year or in 5 years. But I think and we look at competitive advantage a lot. When we look at competitive advantage, we think we're in an okay position in the short to medium term. There's obviously stuff like who thought the cable would be disrupted by over the top? Who thought that horses would be disrupted by cars? Like they become these sort of paradigm shifts that you always have to look over your back for. Pretty hard to defend against a paradigm shift. It's pretty hard that for Warner Brothers or Discovery, all these businesses who are dominant in cable suddenly have to deal with OTT. But like sometimes you can't. That's just sort of unlucky.
Yeah, 100%.
But so AI could be that. Like if you think of what an OTA is, it's a kind of UX UI layer above a bunch of data. Can AI disrupt it? It definitely could. I actually don't think it will. For a few reasons, but it could.
Well, because I know that ChatGPT can't book your restaurants and hotels for you because I've tried.
Yeah, you can have operator.
Yeah, so like if you type in, I'm going to this place, I'm going with this many people, could you create an itinerary for me? And then it can. You say, great, could you make those bookings? It can't.
Yeah.
So that's where your roadblock comes in. Yeah. And essentially the AI integration into your platform will hopefully solve an issue like that.
Yeah. I think the other question is how much is the shopping experience based on serendipity? So if you're asking GPT to book your Vietnamese restaurant on Victoria Street around the corner from here, yeah, it can, but don't you want some, like maybe you're different, but I want some input on that decision. I don't trust GPT to do it. I want to choose based on a bunch of different things. Like I'll trust GPT, or I won't necessarily trust GPT, but I'll trust at some point an LLM to give me the different parameters to choose from. But I still want I want the whimsy of making that decision for myself in shopping. And I think shopping is different to research. I think in research, LLMs can be incredibly, or in like something like the law. I was once a lawyer. I can see how like my previous job can be easily wiped out because we just weren't adding that much value.
Yeah, right.
I think it's different in a shopping and I could be proven wrong. We could be back in 5 years' time and just like we've been destroyed by AI and I was wrong. But I think shopping is probably one of the later businesses to get disrupted by AI in the complete sense. I think there's elements of what we do that are absolutely going to get disrupted and hopefully in a positive way. But I think in terms of will you just book your will you just say OpenAI or Claude or whatever, will you book my holiday, I want to go somewhere hot. Would you trust that? I don't know. I think part of it is wanting to see the photos, wanting to see the videos, wanting to see what other people said.
Yeah, but that's because you're Nicole, right? And so am I. And then all the other people who just go on the holiday and didn't do any of that and didn't even look at your beautifully presented deck, that is their experience. And they just show up and they're like, oh, okay, I'm at the restaurant.
Well,
so maybe
that's your friends, but I'm talking about other bookers. Like if someone's relying on you to book, they're always going to get the free ride. But I'm talking about people who are actually booking, because that's who we're competing for bookers essentially, not the free riders who will go along with the bookers.
But what if the free riders become the bookers? Because the Nicole is your system. They trust that booking system.
Yeah, that's the risk. That's exactly the risk. I think balance probably is I don't think it overcomes the human desire to have some control over what you end up booking, but it's also not without possibility. I think the question is the scale, like of the scale, how many people sort of fall. There'll be some people who just outsource completely to whoever the operator is, and I think the operators become increasingly commoditized, as we're seeing with DeepSeek. How much sort of proprietary value is there in these models? But let's assume that let's use a model. There will be some people who rely on it completely, but how many people is that? And I think a Luxury Escapes customer, to an extent, is someone who doesn't want to shop that way. Potentially, they want to be sort of immersed in the buying experience. Again, this could be all wrong. I'm kind of half guessing here and half based on gut feel and half hoping. That's 3 halves, but. I'm not sure. I think it disrupts elements of the booking process, but I think the challenge for us is how do we use AI to make the booking experience easy, but still maintain that magic of booking a holiday. And in my view, your holiday starts from when you start planning, not when you go on a plane. Unfortunately, a lot of the planning process sucks, so hence why people sort of just don't like it. But I think part of what we do is make the planning process beautiful. And I think we can keep getting a lot better at that. And we're not perfect. There's definitely some people who have a bad experience with us. I think it'd be in the minority, but there's definitely people. The question is, how do we get more and more people saying, I had this incredible experience with the Luxury Escapes store or on the website or on the app or whatever it is, and for us to keep evolving and making sure that we have the best product in market.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like we've spoken mostly about the booking platform for what it is, but obviously Luxury Escapes as a brand is so much more than that. And you touched on it before, and you've got the show, there's so many elements to it, like the social media community and people who are recommending different things. How did you kind of come up with the world of Luxury Escapes and the brand itself rather than just keeping it to a singular platform?
I think you're giving us a bit too much credit that we sort of set out to do any of this stuff. We still operate the business much like a sort of day one startup in that we'll test lots and lots of stuff. The TV show, like other people have done shows, and we always thought, there was a few. The first reason we did the show was we can use the show to get hotel deals, because we were always trying to get deals. And we thought, we'll put you on the show, you give us a deal. It didn't really work because hotels would say, yeah, I'll go on the show. They'd sort of hold off on the deal, and then they'd have us by the balls and we'd have to do a shitty deal.
Cheeky.
So that didn't work that well. Then we realised customers would buy because they saw the show. I thought, that's actually pretty good. Why don't we get some sort of friends, as in partner brands, to sponsor the show? So we did that, and that sort of bankrolled, not all of it, but some of it. So we used it as customer acquisition. And then we sort of kept morphing, and we use it partly for sort of engage with partners, partly for customer acquisition, partly for hotel. So it's kind of 3 different aims, I guess, now. And this, like, if you look at our cruise partners, they pay lower front-end margins but do more marketing spend. So it's just a different way of getting sort of paid, and it's a great way to show cruising is an interesting category because you got people who love cruising, and you got people who haven't cruised before and don't know about it and don't trust it.
Which one are you?
I actually love cruising.
Really?
Obviously, there's certain cruises I wouldn't go on because they're a bit more sort of geared towards slightly more mature people. But we did a Disney cruise that was pretty good fun. We did an NCL cruise that was great. So there was definitely I remember when I was on the NCL cruise, this was like 7 years ago, but there was sort of college kids in the spa with us, and it was multi-generational. Okay. So it was heaps of young people. So there's definitely an element of cruising that it's just for grandparents, which it kind of is for the high-end stuff because no one else can afford it. But there's heaps of cruising that's not. It's effectively like having an all-inclusive resort on the water. Yeah. And you get to, the beauty of cruising like in Europe is you get to go to like amazing places without having to unpack the whole time. So that's pretty cool. The cruise companies love advertising on TV because we really show how good it is, and we have people on Virgin Cruises and Disney Cruises and all that kind of stuff. Seabourn and Silver Sea and all that, great partners. So it's great, and we have magazine for the same reason. We can really show our partners in a great light. So we kind of try lots of stuff. We tried a podcast last year. It was okay, but it probably wasn't good enough to really justify the investment compared to what we do in other senses. So it wasn't if it was like the worst thing ever. We had listeners, but just didn't have enough listeners to justify the investment. So so we just said, you know what, it was great, but we won't keep doing it. So we'll try lots of stuff. Some works, some doesn't. I think as long as you're quick to move on from something that clearly isn't working, and also give something and this is where it's really hard, is something sort of works, and how much do you invest in something? Do you some people say just kill it if it's not working. Then there's also real value in optionality, and the Bassett's at Seek are great at this. And how do you maintain optionality as long as possible? Because you never know what's going to work. And sometimes you've got like a weak product market fit, but with a few tweaks you can get it right. When we started the retail store, a lot of people, even within the business, doubted that would work. People at sort of board level and shareholder level, like they were willing to let us try, but they were very skeptical. And it turned out to be an incredible experience. Not only is it profitable, but it's an amazing brand ambassador for the business. So we sort of had to give it a crack till you try. And had it not worked, we just wouldn't have done another one. Now we're planning this couple in the pipeline, so we're working on doing more. But it was a bit of a sort of two-way door. We could always just do you had a 6-year lease, but we would have just used it as the world's most expensive call center for a while. So it was an educated bet that I thought would go well, and that we thought would go well, and it did. But even if it hadn't, the asymmetric upside made sense. And I interviewed David Schaefer for my previous pod, who's him and Ruslan sort of effectively co-founded Kogan. And he sort of said the same thing. He said, Kogan's been a story of asymmetric bets. We'll try 100 things. If one thing works and pays off 1,000x, that's a great result. So I've always sort of tried to operate in a similar sense to those guys. And they're round the corner from us and have similar business in a different sector, being electronics, not travel. But we want to try lots of stuff and fail at lots of stuff, but try and get as much stuff right as we can. And when we get something right, go really hard at it.
Yeah. Actually, I went to a marketing presentation from two of the girls who run, one of them is head of marketing and one of them is head of failure at Diary of a CEO.
Okay.
And so her main role is to test and fail and then get the learnings from it. So it's that failing fast to scale fast mentality, which I think is really clever and really key in a lot of startups. And obviously you're significantly bigger than a lot of startups that I generally talk to. But has that been a key strategy for you moving forward so that, if something's not working, you kill it really quickly, and if something is working, you say, okay, great, let's learn from this and grow even faster? Yeah,
no, totally. And I think Diary CEO is a great example. Like, ironically, he wasn't a very good CEO, but he could become the world's best podcaster. Like, he's like Scott Galloway saying he reckons he can overtake Joe Rogan in the next year. So he's done Stephen's done an incredible job at capturing different mediums, understanding how important YouTube is, having a full studio in there. And so I think there are definitely similarities in how we'd like to run the business. Do we run it as sort of agile as he runs? Maybe not. He's done an incredible job. So we definitely look to businesses like that and enterprise like that. So how do we remain? And as you get bigger, it definitely becomes harder to remain agile. And we were much more agile 5 years ago or 10 years ago. That said, like we deal with other travel businesses obviously a lot bigger than us, and we look at them and they're like sort of bureaucratic, bloated. No one can get anything done. They're it's like Game of Thrones, everybody fighting against each other. I don't think we have that in our business, but there's probably pockets of it. So it remains a constant challenge, and a lot of it comes down to are you hiring the right people at sort of ELT and SLT level who can think like owners and try and be partners in removing that bureaucracy.
Yeah, right.
But they're always like the bigger you get, there's more sort of waste. Sort of imagine the sort of scrub in a forest that grows and grows. There is that sort of scrub that continues to grow, and you got to somehow remove it, and it's really hard.
Yeah, for sure.
The most important thing is how do we just find 100 entrepreneurs who can work in our business and think like it's their bit, act like founders. And once you sort of find, and the other challenge of people like that who are amazing often want to start their own business, which we always sort of love to see, but then you lose this incredible talent. So it's a really interesting challenge, but are we perfect? 100% we're not. Are we better than most? I think we probably are.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's one of our biggest challenges. How do we stay nimble?
Yeah. And I think your point to hiring a good team is just as hard to do that as it is to avoid hiring the wrong people. Have you had any experience in that? Hiring
the wrong people?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I don't think that the episode's long enough to go through, but and even now we still, like, I've been on 100 podcasts at the same thing, and it's such obvious advice is when someone's not right for the business, you're not helping anyone. It's like a bad relationship. You don't stay in a bad relationship for long. Everybody knows the sooner you end it, the better, because it's not good for either party. Exactly the same with an employment relationship. Like if something's not working, the employee is almost certainly having a terrible experience as well. So you're both having a bad experience. You're not helping the employee by being gutless and not ending it. So
unless they're delusional.
Yeah, there's probably an element of that. But we'll assume some rationality. Occasionally there's delusion there, but that's unusual. Usually the person isn't like, it's a release, and they can, the job market's still great. People can get other jobs pretty quickly now. Like obviously you want to try not to do it Christmas Eve and like stuff like when people are usually when people aren't going to be able to get a job. But if you the quicker the better, and that's a big one, and it's something that we don't do well enough. Like we sort of, there's always the reason why you don't want to do it today. And it's kind of getting it set in and just doing what needs to be done. So that's a really big one. And being brutal is not the right word, but being really honest with yourself and with the team member that if it's not working, it's not working.
Sure.
And at the same time, making sure you look after really good people and making sure you don't take them for granted. It's really easy to take good people for granted. Often people won't ask for raises or won't ask for big raises when they deserve them. And so it's up to you that sort of then have to try and voluntarily do it, which is hard as well. So it's a really tough, it can be really hard to not only keep good people, but also remove the people who should be removed, who aren't a good cultural fit or aren't performing or whatever else. So it absolutely is the biggest challenge of C-suite is hiring the right talent and retaining the right talent and moving on the wrong talent. That and capital allocation for a CEO. But like the talent thing, if you get the right people there, your job becomes a lot easier.
How many people do you have now?
About 600.
Ooh. And how many did you kind of start with?
Depends which business you're asking about. It was just me and Jez initially. So my good mate from school, we started originally, and then our friend's mum started working with us. This is before Luxury Escape. This is a different business.
Yeah.
Then Martine started working with us when we had the sort of apartments business. And then we kind of had 3 or 4 or 5 in the predecessor to Luxury Escapes. We got to 20 pretty quickly, 25 pretty quickly. And then we did a few acquisitions, so it sort of jumped up, but it's sort of, it's kind of, we had a big growth spurt post-COVID. So we're like 220 sort of towards the end of COVID. So 220 going into COVID, probably 350 coming out. And then we had a pretty aggressive year where we hired quite a few people. Probably overcooked the hiring for the first year. And look at the last year, our staff's been really steady. We haven't really grown at all because we've kind of grown into our size. So we're probably a really nice size now.
And what do you think the key differences are from having a really small level of staff, under 50 to now having 600?
Actually, I don't notice
myself
that many. Yeah, like there's probably some people I don't know, which is a bit weird. Like you go to a Christmas party and you don't know maybe 40 to 50% of the people, which is weird because they used to know 100%.
It's not like your own wedding when you're introducing yourself.
Wouldn't be a great wedding if you didn't know. Yeah. But yeah, a bit like that.
What a treat.
And I'll try and ask people who they are so I know before I speak to them, because otherwise it's hard when the people know you and you don't know them.
Yeah.
And usually it's new, we may have 100 new people a year because there's obviously attrition, or maybe less than 100, but let's say it's 70 a year. So we have 11 or 12% attrition. That's still 70 people coming through every year. It's pretty hard to keep up with. So that's definitely a challenge. But from day to day, it's actually not that different because you kind of work in your sort of area. We've got a team in Barcelona now. I'm actually going there in a few months, but I haven't seen
terrible.
them. Yeah, but I haven't seen those guys for like a year or so. They've grown that team a lot. So once you get sort of part, is it Patagonia who talks about that sort of 150 person team? I think when you get past that 150, it kind of then you get to the next challenge of, I think it's like 1,000. Like there's sort of stages, and once you sort of break out of that first stage, you're sort of in that second stage, and break out of the second stage, and you go to 1,000 to 20. Like there's sort of stages you get to in a business, and we're sort of between stages now, between the 150 and the 1,000, whatever it is. So that's where we've been there for a while, and hopefully are here for a while still.
Yeah, and in terms of keeping the staff, what's the main thing that you prioritize to ensure that the best people are staying and that you're not attracting people who aren't going to be good for the business?
It's really hard.
Yeah.
In terms of the attracting, people are always going to apply. It's up to you to sort of sift through and work out who's the best fit for your business and who's the best cultural fit. I think if you get that right, and our team's done a really good job. So we had a bit of attrition through contact centre till about 5-6 months ago, and then it's almost gone to zero. And we had a focus on let's not hire so fast. Let's be much more careful with who we hire.
Strategic, yeah.
Yeah, and that's allowed us to just pick more appropriate. I'm going to say better people isn't right because you can be a really good person, it's not right for the business. And there's certain businesses that we tend not to hire from. So it could be a big bank, it could be a big, not because we don't like those people, because our businesses operate so differently to those businesses. If you've been at a big bank for 10 years, it just won't be a smooth transition. If you worked at a startup for 10 years, it probably will be, or a scale up. So we want to try and give people the best possible chance. That said, if you were a founder, then you worked at CBA for a year and hated it, well, that's still great because you've still got that sort of founder mentality. But we know there are some people that won't be a great fit for our business. We probably will tend to avoid them. Not always, but tend to. And there's some people who think we're a great fit. So we want to try and hire for you, and I think you always want to try and hire for your culture.
For sure.
And it's so important getting the right. Like the fish absolutely rots from the head when you have a bad manager. It just
I've never heard that phrase.
Yeah,
that's good.
It's and we've made that error, and they sort of hire the wrong people, and they hire the wrong people. It rolls down. So you've really got to cauterize the bad managers if there is one, and we very rarely have that. But if there is one, that's the real worry. That can infect, and pulling that out is like really hard. Because let's say the bad manager comes and hires 3 people who hire 5 people who hire 5 people. That's like 100 people that have been hired, and you've got to somehow like deal with 100 people, which is super hard.
I never considered that. That's a really good point.
So yeah, so getting it right at ELT, which obviously I hire, and SLT who I wouldn't hire but I'd approve. Then I don't really approve below SLT unless it's like by exception. So you've just got to trust that the ELT and SLT are aligned with what you want.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing because I speak to so many startup founders. I work at a startup and, we help startups grow and scale. And you talk to them and their key priority is getting the best staff, because if you don't have a good team around you, you're not going to be able to grow in the way that you want to grow and towards your vision. And the vision, I think, is a key driver in people's motivation in coming to work every day. How do you ensure that everybody who comes to work at Luxury Escapes sees the vision, understands it, and works towards it?
Yeah, we probably don't. We have a pretty detailed induction when people start. So we tell people, do we reinforce it enough? I don't know. I think there's also an element of just the general culture of the business is pretty self-fulfilling if we get that right. We're a super fast-paced, real hustle environment, and that's from, I guess, I'm obviously just patient one at that, but it sort of trickles down to everyone. For me, we've got a mission for the business, and we've got values, and we expect people to live the values, but it sort of comes from example as much as it comes from the sort of 6 values on the wall, or 8, maybe 8 values now on the wall.
Yeah.
So I can create all the values I want. I can, like Amazon did, like whoever did, but unless you really live them, especially living them from everyone, it kind of becomes moot. So we try and especially from ELT down, like there's obviously the right to disconnect, which is a law that we, like, everybody would abide by, but there are people who love being connected. Obviously, I'm one of them, but some people who it doesn't matter when you contact them, they want to solve my CTO is a classic example. So Shai I could message him 24 hours a day and he wants to get the message because he wants to solve the problem. Yeah. Other people who don't want that. And you just got to understand who are those people. But we want to hire people who want to solve the problem.
Yeah, I'm toxic like that. What's a boundary? Not for me.
Yeah, and some people are just like that.
Yeah.
And you want to get those people. If that's the kind of business you are, you want a team of those people.
For sure.
But there are other people who aren't like that, and you've got to respect that, obviously. But they're probably not the kind of people who will succeed in our business. They might have succeeded in other businesses, which is great. And that's not to say every single person is in our category, because they're not. But certainly at leadership level, they probably are. And you probably aren't going to last that long if you're ignoring my emails on the weekend, because it's not how we work.
Yeah.
And if you're going to get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars in a senior leadership role, we kind of expect that. If you're a sort of first year junior person in the content center, we don't expect that. So it's really sort of role dependent, REM dependent. There are obviously laws that you abide by, but we want people to want to be contacted. That's probably the most important thing. Governments can write all the rules they want. If people want to do the right thing, that's more important than any legislation.
100%. I think that's an interesting thing, because obviously, like in France, there are laws that you can't contact people outside of work hours, which is fascinating. And I think that there's benefits and drawbacks to both systems. I'm the one, but I manage a team, so I lack boundaries for me personally. So our CEO can always contact me whenever. Whereas I say, don't contact the girls.
Yeah.
I can come through me, and then I'll pass it on to them, because it's not for them to have to bear the brunt of, getting texted at 9:00 at night because the platform's gone down or something like that. And it's an interesting thing to have managers who also protect their staff too. And protect the business.
I think it goes
for
to the
you.
point that managers know which staff. So we had actually an issue, must have been like a month ago, where Caroline, our amazing media buyer, messaged me like it was 9 o'clock on Saturday, your example, and said, we just stuffed up an ad. I had the wrong words on there, so it would have misled a bunch of customers inadvertently.
Right.
And it was 9 o'clock. Literally, we had an hour to change it at 9 o'clock on Saturday night. So I messaged Penny, who's our incredible head of studio, who's like 6 months pregnant at the time as well. I said, Penny, you're around. And I know, and she's someone who just like is always on. But I wasn't sure because it was late and I've actually got young children. And she messaged me back in like 1 minute saying, yeah, I am, what's wrong? I said, there's a problem with the ad. She goes, she messaged someone else, and literally within like 2 minutes, that person did it. She was like a really good designer, and Nat had done it within 10 minutes. She'd fixed it and submitted it. So I wouldn't have even known who to message, but obviously Penny's incredible, and she's built a team around her, and Nat jumped on in like 5 minutes and sorted it. That just shows you like that's the kind of people we want in the business.
Totally.
And there are other people who no doubt wouldn't have answered, and that's totally fine. Absolutely in their rights to answer, but when it comes to bonuses, when it comes to pay rise, when it comes to promotions, it's the kind of people who jump on, who sort of jump on a grenade for you, who you want to push through really hard. And that's not for everyone. Some people just want to sort of do the 9 to 5.
Some people want to chill.
And that's totally fine.
I respect it.
But we, as a business, if you want to win, and startups are a full body contact sport, you work in this. If you want to win in our sector, you've got to beat other people, and you don't beat other people by working 9 to 5. You lose if you work 9 to 5. Go work for the ATO or whatever if you want to do that. If you want to win in startups, you've got to be better than everyone else. It's not even just sport. The person who trains the hardest wins. I think for us, the people who play the hardest wins, and that's again at C-suite especially. And we've sort of created a business in that image, and eventually, as your business matures and you've got real competitive advantage, maybe you can get away with sort of different behaviour, but we don't have strong enough competitive advantages that allow us to sort of float on by and hope for the best. We've got to be the best. We've got to win, and to win, you've got to work harder.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like I could talk to you about business stuff all day, but I kind of want to close out on a bit of a travel story.
Yeah.
What is your worst ever travel experience? And I feel like I'm probably throwing you a curveball here because there's probably a few.
I haven't had really bad ones. I've had like a few annoying niggles, like plane delayed 3-4 hours. That's not really that bad. Nah. I was on a plane, and we were on our plane. I think it was honeymoon actually. We were on our plane on the way back, and it was a Jetstar flight. This is like pre-luxury escapes, and like we were on the tarmac, and we had to deplane and stayed overnight. But we got to stay in Hawaii for a night, so it wasn't that bad.
It's not bad.
I can't think of that many like really bad experiences.
No?
Yeah, we've been pretty lucky. Touch wood, been pretty lucky. We generally get pretty good weather.
Just blessed.
Yeah, so far. Inevitably, next trip, I'm sure something will go devastatingly wrong. But
because you've said this. You're not
totally
God's favourite all the time.
Yeah,
at the
exactly.
End of the day.
But no, I think like we lost luggage once in Egypt, or something, not in Egypt, in Jordan, but like that's all right. Going home the next day, like it wasn't the end of the world.
All right, pivot. Favourite travel destination?
It's a bit like a Sophie's Choice for me. I love skiing, so I'm going heli skiing in a month. So I haven't been since pre-COVID. So that's really good. In terms of like sort of favourite sort of general destinations, heli's a bit unusual. Nobody wants to do that. Probably Maldives, bang for buck, is I still think the most underrated place.
Desperate to go. I don't think
I know
it's
a
underrated.
website that
Really?
Yeah.
What's that one called?
One in every 2 Australians who goes to Maldives actually comes to us. So it's our number one penetrated destination. But yeah, the beauty of the Maldives, the weather's incredible most of the year, or pretty much all year. It's not like, so it's warm like sort of Asia, but it's not that sort of humidity. So you got that nice warmth.
Delightful.
The water is like incredible. So the snorkeling's as good as anywhere I've ever been. Like the sharks, the fish, the rays, all that stuff. And the food is the best food I've ever had. So if you think of the boxes you want to tick on a holiday, the only, I guess, challenge is getting there is a little bit trickier. Like you've got to fly to Singapore 4 hours to Bali, and there's either a boat ride or a plane to you.
It's fine. It's a commitment. It's okay.
Yeah, it's a commitment, but it's kind of what makes it good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've actually gone there twice in a couple of weeks. Once for holiday, once for work this year. But yeah, I'll try and get there as much as we can. But in terms of destination, like if you look at value wise, it's not that different cost to Hawaii or Fiji. but it's really, really good.
Okay, it's at the top of my list. So thank you for solidifying it there. I'm
we've got
glad.
some places you can go there.
That's up there. Then I've got Mexico beneath it. Then
Nice.
Japan at this point.
Yeah.
My top
Pretty
three
hot
that I wanna go
destination.
to.
Japan's like an incredibly hot destination
Everyone's
now.
obsessed with it at the moment, hey?
Yeah.
Because I feel like Bali is just not cheap anymore.
There are definitely, like we're selling Bulgaria on the site now for $2,000 a night. That's not cheap, but it's incredible. You still get some pretty good value in Bali. And I think the beauty of Bali is the food in Bali is really good.
So I'm
when we talk about like food, Maldives and Bali are both two of my favorites. But yeah, like and Bali's obviously easy to get to, but it's more expensive than it used to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, Japan's super popular, but Japan's also, it's pretty busy, and even though the yen's really weak, like prices are quite high. So it's, but there's no time difference. So there's definitely pros and cons, but yeah, it's super hot destination.
Yeah. Oh, this has been great. I feel like I could talk to you all day, but I know you're super, super busy, and I really, really appreciate you coming in. It's been absolutely brilliant to chat to you, and thank you so much for the insights. I feel like everyone's going to absolutely love it.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me on.